Meet the Wheelers, so brave and so true. A mystical journey is waiting for you. Dad Arthur can fix it, Mom Ellie can steer. With Max and with Lily, there's nothing to fear. Barley's our dog, a magic retriever. 3 wishes a day for the magic believer. I'm Elias, your guide to this grand library. Buckle up, friends, let's make history.
Welcome to the Wander-Wagon, my friends. Settle in, for today marks the beginning of one of the Wheelers' most incredible journeys. Have you ever wondered what would happen if the sky simply forgot how to shine? Barley is already on the scent, and the map is calling. Are you ready? Then listen closely. The Forgotten Constellations, Part 1. The Sky Without a Map. The night at the high plateau began normally, but the air held a strange, brittle cold. Outside, the Great Plains stretched out like a vast ocean of silver grass, bowing to a wind that sighed rather than whistled. Inside the Wander-Wagon, the Wheeler family was safe. Mom Ellie was fixing Lily's favorite raincoat, while Dad Arthur was polishing the brass gears of an old lantern they had found in the canyons. Max and Lily sat on the rug with Barley, the golden retriever whose presence always made the small space feel like a sunlit meadow. Usually, Barley would be snoring, twitching his paws as he chased dream rabbits. But tonight, Barley was wide awake. His head was tilted toward the ceiling, his golden eyes reflecting something the humans hadn't noticed yet.
"Barley, what is it, boy?"
Lily whispered, stroking his soft ears. Barley didn't wag his tail. Instead, he let out a low, mournful whimper, a sound so thin it made the hair on Max's neck stand up. "Dad," Max said quietly, "look at the stars." Arthur peered through the small trailer window. At first, he saw the usual darkness. Then, his breath hitched. The stars weren't falling. They were drowning in the shadows. One by one, the bright diamonds began to flicker and fail, like candles being snuffed out by an invisible breath. It was as if the velvet of the night was drinking the light, leaving behind nothing but jagged, ink-black holes in the heavens.
"The Great Bear is gone,"
Ellie whispered, joining them at the window.
"And the Archer. The sky is becoming empty. It's like the stars have forgotten how to shine."
The sky didn't just go dark. It seemed to crack. A silent explosion of silver light rippled across the heavens as the mother star shattered into 5 brilliant shards. Like falling diamonds, the pieces scattered toward the horizon, lost in the shadows of the world below. A sudden, violent shudder shook the Wander-Wagon as the magic of the sky broke apart. It wasn't an earthquake, but a shift in the world's magic. From the dusty wooden chest beneath bed, a soft thumping began. Ellie pulled out a leather-bound scroll, the star map, usually filled with the shimmering outlines of 100 constellations. The parchment was now fading. As the family watched, the silver ink vanished, leaving the map hauntingly bare. But then, 5 dark, circular hollows appeared on the paper like empty nests. The map hummed, and the first hollow began to pulse with a faint light, pointing directly toward the coast. "The lighthouse at the Bay of Whispers," Arthur said, his face pale in the parchment's glow. "If the stars are gone, no traveler can find their way. The world is blind. We have to go." The journey to the coast was a blur of shadows. Without starlight, the world felt heavy. The headlights of the Wander-Wagon cut through darkness so thick it felt like driving through velvet. Barley sat between the children, his golden collar flickering with a worried, rhythmic pulse. The magic of the world was tied to the stars, and as they vanished, Barley's own light struggled. Hours later, the scent of salt and damp pine filled the cabin. They reached the cliffs, but the sight was terrifying. Usually, a lighthouse is a welcoming beacon. This lighthouse was screaming. A pillar of violent, jagged white light shot from the stone tower. It didn't rotate or blink. It stood perfectly still, a frozen spear of radiance that turned the surrounding mist into a wall of solid white ice. The light didn't guide. It blinded. At the base of the tower, sitting on rusted anchor chains, was a man. He wore a faded blue naval coat, but his head was buried in his hands. This was Captain Barnaby, the keeper of the light. As Arthur stepped out, shielding his eyes, he called, "Captain, what happened?" Barnaby didn't look up. "Stay back," he cried, his voice cracked. "A piece of the Mother Star fell straight into the lantern room. It's too pure for this earth. It's screaming with the light of 1,000 suns. I tried to go up. I tried to shroud it, but I can't see. I'm blind to my own light." The family looked up. The air around the lantern room vibrated with energy. Birds were falling from the sky, confused by the glare. Far out at sea, the foghorns of lost ships moaned in the distance, unable to find the shore. "We have to get up there," Max said, squinting. "If we don't calm that light, the bay will become a graveyard." Barley stepped forward, his fur standing on end. He looked at the screaming tower, then at his family. He gave a single, determined bark. He knew his magic. The warm, golden magic of the hearth was the only thing that could wrap around the cold, sharp light of the fallen star. "Together," Ellie said, taking Arthur's hand. "Let's bring the stars back home." The Forgotten Constellations, Part 2. The Blinding Lantern. The spiral staircase inside the lighthouse felt like a journey into the heart of a sun. Usually, the stone walls of the tower would be cool to the touch, smelling of ancient salt and damp lime. But tonight, the air was dry and humming with a strange, static charge that made the hair on the children's arms stand up. Every step upward brought them closer to the piercing, white radiance that was leaking through the cracks in the heavy wooden floorboards above. Arthur led the way, his face set in a grim mask of determination. Over his shoulder, he carried a thick, water-soaked wool blanket. "This will be our shield," he said, his voice echoing against the curved stone walls. "If we can just get close enough to shroud the lantern, the light might stop screaming." Ellie followed closely behind him, her hand resting firmly on Lily's shoulder to keep her steady. Max kept pace with Barley, who was moving with a strange, deliberate grace. The golden retriever wasn't panting or shivering as he usually did during storms. Instead, his golden fur seemed to be absorbing the stray sparks of white light that danced in the air like angry fireflies. He looked less like a pet and more like a guardian, his eyes focused on the invisible pressure waves rippling down from the top of the tower. "Close your eyes halfway," Arthur warned as they reached the final landing. "The light up here isn't like a campfire. It's raw. Don't look directly at the lenses." The iron trapdoor leading into the lantern room was glowing with a faint, ghostly violet hue around the edges. The heat radiating from it was intense. Not the burning heat of a flame, but the sharp, focused energy of 1,000 summer noons concentrated into a single point. With a deep breath and a grunt of effort, Arthur heaved the heavy door open. A wall of pure, silent white crashed down upon them. It wasn't just light. It felt like a physical weight pressing against their chests and pushing them back toward the stairs. The scream Captain Barnaby had described was now a high-pitched vibration, a sound so high it rattled the very teeth in their heads. Lily gripped Max's hand so hard her knuckles turned white. They scrambled up into the lantern room, squinting through their lashes. The massive glass lenses of the lighthouse, the famous Fresnel lenses, were designed to catch a small lamp flame and amplify it into a beam that could be seen for 20 miles. But now, trapped in the center of those precision-cut glass prisms was a jagged, pulsing shard of the mother star. It looked like a piece of broken diamond, the size of a fist, spinning frantically in midair. It was beautiful, but it was also terrifyingly out of control. "It's trapped!" Ellie shouted over the hum of the celestial energy. "The lenses are reflecting the star's own light back into itself. It's a feedback loop of fear. The more it shines, the more the glass reflects it, and the more the star panics." Arthur stepped forward, bracing himself against the wind of pure energy. He raised the soaked blanket, intending to throw it over the central pedestal, but as he got within 3 feet of the shard, the air pushed him back with the force of a gale. The celestial pressure was too dense for a human to penetrate. The light grew even brighter, pulsating with a rhythmic, angry throb. "I can't get near it!" Arthur yelled, shielding his face with his arm. "The air is solid! It's like trying to walk through a wall of stone!" Max tried to help, but even together, the father and son couldn't make another step. The room felt like it was about to shatter from the intensity of the glare. The glass lenses began to groan under the heat, and a small crack appeared in the outer window. Suddenly, they felt a shift. A different kind of warmth began to spread from the center of the room, a familiar, comforting scent of toasted cinnamon and sun-warmed hay. Barley stepped past them. He wasn't struggling. He wasn't fighting the wind. He was walking through the white glare as if it were a gentle morning mist. Barley reached the base of the pedestal. He sat down directly in front of the blinding, screaming shard. He looked at the star shard not as a monster, but as something small and lost. He let out a soft, sympathetic whine, his golden aura beginning to pulse in time with the star's frantic heartbeat. Arthur and Ellie watched in awe, their shadows cast long and dark against the wall. The final spark of the day was ready. Barley's chest began to heave, and he tilted his head back, his nose twitching toward the white, hot light. Forgotten Constellations, Part 3. The Golden Rhythm. The lantern room was a whirlwind of white energy, but at its center, Barley sat as still as a statue. The star shard continued to spin, its jagged edges blurring into a frantic circle of light. The vibration was so intense that the family could feel it in their marrow, a silent cry for help from a piece of the sky that had forgotten how to shine softly. Barley's golden aura, the light of the hearth and the home, began to expand. It wasn't a sharp light. It was thick and warm, like honey poured into a glass of milk. It met the cold celestial white of the star shard, and for a moment, the two energies clashed. But Barley didn't push. He simply existed, offering the shard a sense of peace it hadn't felt since it fell from the heavens. The dog's nose began to twitch more violently now. He could feel the stardust, the fine, shimmering powder that shed from the star's surface tickling the inside of his snout. It was a cosmic itch, a tickle made of moonlight and ancient memories.
"He's doing it,"
Lily whispered, her eyes wide with hope.
"He's going to catch the light."
Barley's chest heaved. His ears flopped forward, and his eyes squeezed shut with such focus that his whole face wrinkled. He drew in a breath so deep it seemed to pull the very air out of the room. Max leaned forward, gripping the railing. He knew this look. This was the calm before the golden storm. Achoo! The sneeze erupted with the force of a soft explosion, but instead of water or dust, a cloud of 1,000,000 shimmering, honey-colored sparks burst from Barley's nose. They swirled through the air like a golden cyclone, dancing around the Fresnel lenses and diving straight into the heart of the star shard. The effect was instantaneous. The sparks didn't just hit the shard, they coated it. They acted like a magical filter, wrapping the sharp, violent white edges in a layer of amber warmth. The scream died away, replaced by a low, melodic chime that sounded like a silver bell struck far away. The transformation rippled through the lighthouse. The blinding, frozen spear of light that had been stabbing into the fog suddenly softened. It turned into a deep, rich amber glow, the color of a sunset captured in a jar. The gears of the lighthouse, which had been jammed by the celestial pressure, let out a satisfied clunk and began to move. The massive lenses started to rotate once more. A long, gentle finger of golden light swept across the Bay of Whispers, cutting through the fog with ease. The star shard, now quieted and peaceful, drifted down from the air. It didn't look like a jagged diamond anymore. It looked like a smooth, glowing pebble. It landed softly in Barley's mouth. He held it with incredible gentleness, as if he were carrying a tiny, sleeping bird. The family finally let out the breath they had been holding. The crushing pressure in the room was gone. Arthur stood up, shaking the dust from his wool blanket. He looked out the gallery window and saw a miracle. Far out at sea, the foghorns fell silent. One by one, the tiny lights of ships began to move again, steered by the new, golden rhythm of the lighthouse. They descended the stairs, their shadows dancing softly against the stone. At the bottom, Captain Barnaby was standing on the shore, his hands no longer covering his eyes. He was looking up at the tower, his face bathed in the amber sweep of the light. "It's beautiful," Barnaby whispered as the family stepped back onto the salt-crusted earth. He looked up at the amber sweep of the tower, his eyes clear and full of wonder. "The bite is gone from the light. It doesn't hurt to look anymore. It feels like a promise." Barley trotted over to the captain, his tail wagging with a slow, rhythmic thud. He didn't drop the shard. Instead, he nudged Barnaby's hand, tilting his head so the old sailor could see the now calm starseed glowing between his teeth. It was steady and warm, like a captured summer evening. After a moment, Barley turned and gently placed the glowing fragment into Arthur's open palm. "You saved more than just the ships tonight, pup," the captain said, his voice thick with emotion. He reached into his deep coat pocket and pulled out a small, tarnished brass spyglass. "I don't have much to give, but take this. It's an old navigator's glass. It sees things that aren't always there. It might help you find the other 4 star fragments." As Arthur took the spyglass, Ellie unrolled the star map. The silver ink of the old constellations remained faded, but the first of the 5 dark hollows suddenly flared with light as Arthur placed the shard near it. High above the Bay of Whispers, a small group of stars flickered back into existence, sensing the approaching return of the mother star to the sky. They didn't fill the whole sky, but they shone with a unique, grateful brilliance, forming the shape of a dog with a wagging tail. The great friend. "The stars can feel it," Ellie whispered, looking from the parchment to the sky. "They know Barley is helping them. They are lighting the way because they know we've started to bring the mother star back together." Arthur nodded, his face determined as he tucked the first shard into a velvet pouch. "1 piece found, 4 to go. We'll find every last fragment, unite them with the map's magic, and cast the mother star back into the heavens where she belongs." He looked down at the map. The next pulsing point of light was already moving, dragging a golden line away from the salty coast and deep into the tangled, ancient forests of the interior. "The next seed is in the sun-kissed garden," Arthur announced. "And according to the map, it's being guarded by someone who doesn't like to share." Barley hopped into his bed inside the Wander-Wagon, letting out a satisfied huff as the engine roared to life. The sky was still mostly black, but for the first time since the crash, the darkness didn't feel so permanent. They had a mission, and the first star of the new sky was watching over them. The book closes for today. The first constellation is back in the sky, and the Bay of Whispers feels a little warmer tonight. But there is a long road ahead, For 4 shards of the mother star still hide in the shadows of this world. Where will the map lead us next? We shall find out soon enough. Until then, may your dreams be as bright as the stars we saved today. Good night, and until the next tale.